Hi, I'm Natalie Musteata,
And hi, I'm Alexandre Singh,
and we are the writer-directors of Two People Exchanging Saliva.
and we are so thrilled to be here having a conversation with two artists, um, human beings that we admire incredibly, whose work has nourished our work over many years, and that we feel incredibly blessed to have not only seen our film, but appreciated it and championed it, and are here to talk about it with us today.
Yeah, never in our wildest dreams did we imagine this scenario. And yeah, we made this film coming from the visual arts and not really having any preconceptions of where it would go or who would see it or whether it would be for museums or for film festivals or cinemas. And it's such a dream that we've arrived here speaking with the two of you. So thank you. Thank you for taking the time.
Our pleasure.
Absolutely. I'm absolutely delighted. I was so surprised and energized and thrilled by your work when I saw it. It's so unusual. It's so precise. I'm sure Isabelle will agree. And I think it's exciting to discover filmmakers who both have incredible technique and really interesting ideas. So it's a very formidable combination.
Yes, exactly. I felt exactly the same. It's the kind of film you wonder where it all comes from. Actually, this crazy imagination and in the other way, it's also very close. The form is incredibly creative and ambitious and very peculiar narrative storyline, but also the what's going on underneath is so sensitive, so almost emotional, if I dare say, that of course there is the distance of the shape, because the shape is so inventive and so contemporary, but in the really good sense of the word. But the inspiration is also very, very, you feel close to this woman.
I think the stakes are so high. I know that Isabelle and I both, I think, as actors, always respond to what the human stakes are, and that was what was so remarkable. That in this kind of absurdist world that you created, everything mattered so much. Can you guys speak to like how you started with this idea, and where it came from? Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm so curious too, because you really wonder where does it all comes from?
Yeah.
I mean, it's imagination, and also the funny thing about it is that you are two people. I mean, if it was for one people, but being two and so tuned, so together creatively, and from such a inspiration in common. So how do you go there? It's quite amazing.
Yeah, well, when Alex and I met, I think we really quickly discovered that we had the exact same taste, but we always bring different things to the table. And with this particular film, I mean, in some ways, it came out of a constraint. We come from the art world, and we wanted to make a film for as long as we can remember. And we were invited to shoot a film within, the Galerie Lafayette,
And it's this space that is such a loaded space, a space that is beautiful, but in which the upper echelons of society are buying things that they need and things that they don't need, in such a feminine space. And it was during the Zoom meeting where we were given this opportunity that this idea just jumped into our head, this image. It's a very Buñuelian image that what if people paid for things by being slapped in the face? And sometimes in our sort of like very verbal intellectual era, it's sometimes good to just latch onto an image. I think between the two of us, that began a conversation about what it means to be a woman in that kind of space, and what if there was a violence was very banal, which it kind of has become in our society, especially in the United States, but all around the world.
But I think a lot of our ideas are actually inspired by the contemporary world and by the things that we read in newspapers and the absurdity of contemporary life. I mean, the violence isn't particular to this moment in time, but there is something that is so disturbing about how it has just become like fodder, like just a normal part of our consumption. So, you know, when we open up Instagram, for instance, we're met with images of civil unrest and then advertisements for luxury handbags, you know, 2 seconds later. And so this sort of juxtaposition and meeting of things feels particular to this moment.
Well, I think what you both said about it being an emotional story, in a sense, a character-driven story, was really important for us, because the idea was suggestive, but if it was just that, I think it would be flat. I think for us, we were immediately drawn to what would it mean to live in this world, because our world is also absurd. Like the way we pay for things, the difference in power between a billionaire and a homeless person. Like we're living in that world, and we're all living and loving and suffering, and so we wanted to tell a story of two characters in that world, and
particularly female characters. I mean, we really felt like, I mean, the luxury department store already is a more female dominated space, but even if it wasn't, I feel very strongly that we want to tell you know, women-centric stories. And it was important to us to have these three women who were responding to the repressiveness of the society in very different ways. And their different responses being is what causes the drama in the film.
I think I'd be really curious to know your perspectives on the three different characters and things that you were drawn to in those character trajectories and in the performances.
But also because, I mean, so many of our characters are inspired by characters that you've brought to the screen before, whether it's in Elle or the piano teacher, or in Julianne's case, Safe, or, I mean, you know, there's just so many different examples.
Yes, I can tell how you could relate to characters like this, because women constantly navigating between something very easy and not easy, but something very painful, and something also very seductive. And well, there is constant complexity in the situations and in the woman's behaviors, but actually apparently seeking for something, seeking for looking for finding a certain idea of love, a certain idea of feeling, a certain good reason to be alive in a way, and really struggling so hard for that. That's that makes it so emotional, because the way the how do you say that, the I mean, literally spring out of the situation is so striking. It's actually, you feel very uncomfortable with this, because it's supposed to be at the same time funny and also very, very disturbing. So, and this is actually what how you are driven all throughout the watching of the film, which I thought was quite interesting, and quite, you never really feel, and that's what keeps you constantly alert. Constantly, you can never get your eyes off the screen, never. And it's quite amazing.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting too that people always ask me as an actor, and sure Isabelle too, like, what kind of character do you want to play? Like, who, you know, what do you have a dream character? And I'm like, no, I don't. Because characters don't exist without context. You know, we all of us as human beings exist in a world without something to reflect ourselves. We don't know who we are. We don't know how we act. Our behavior is shaped by our culture, by those around us. And you guys created such a distinct world with so many signifiers. Like, the moment that really stays with me so often, and I think I mentioned it too when I first met you, was that moment watching the woman put the makeup on her face to indicate a bruise. So she was indicating status and economic power. And so there was so much there, you know. I'm always looking for what are our signifiers in the way we speak, in the way we move, and how we put on our makeup, and how we dress. what are we saying about ourselves to the world? And in that moment that you guys created of this woman applying the bruise, it took my breath away. It was so specific and so wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was one of the things, we have these absurd rules in our film, but one of the things that we were thinking about is, as absurd as they are, because obviously the rules in our own society are absurd as well. Like, how would humans, like, how would they react to those rules in a realistic way?
And in the way that they do. I think she, putting on her bruises, speaks to the kind of the melancholy sadness of every woman who is aspiring to be someone that she isn't, be it her economic class, her beauty.
Well, every person.
Every person, yeah. I think it's something that's much more central to and in the interior of women's lives constantly than it is for men. I think men can skate over that and not think about those kind of the minutiae of status.
Well, it's certainly true that women are more heavily judged for their appearance than men are. I mean, when Kamala Harris was running for president, or whether it was Hillary Clinton, people talked about the way that they dressed and the way that they looked in a way that, no one ever comments on the way that a male presidential candidate is dressed. So there's definitely different. Yeah.
How did you start the conversations with the three actresses and mainly with the two main actresses, with Zar and Lumna? How did it? Because I was very curious about this. How you guys? What did you tell them?
We wrote the film a little bit with Zar in mind, not from like the very first moment, but part of the film was inspired by the women life freedom movement in Iran. And we had recently watched Zar in the film Holy Spider, directed by Ali Abbasi, and we thought she was just phenomenal. And then we started reading up about her a little bit, and the script was more or less already written, but we found out about how she was living in France in exile because of an intimate tape that had been released of hers in Iran that had caused her to be put on trial and interrogated, and how she escaped Iran and rebuilt her life in France. And we thought that there were like some very, beyond just loving her as an actress, we thought there were some really interesting parallels with the absurdity of the film and the story of our.
I think with all three actresses, we really spoke to them about the lived reality of those characters and how we were trying to make a film that was very, very grounded, and they have to sort of accept these absurd facts as the society in which they inhabit and look for their own human experiences of being trapped in relationships, of Luana's, being in love with someone and not having the temerity to, the bravery to express that. And I think for them, it was a little hard at first. It took a while for us to just communicate that it was just about being there, being present, and really feeling quite intensely what the characters were feeling.
Yeah, we spoke a lot about the characters and their backstories.
Yeah.
But then once we were on set, they really understood. I mean, Zar started bringing a lot of her lived reality into the film, which I think added so much emotion. When we were shooting the last scene in the film in the ravine, that was shot on the last day. And as she started to cry, we all started to cry. And it was all real. And I think that that's really important because, the film, is meant to capture a lived reality.
And even for the character of Petulante, the antagonist, we talked, even though she's not on screen that much, we talked a lot about who this woman is, what is her relationship to the store, in a sense, the sacrifice that she's made. She's decided to commit to the rules of a system and in the expectation that she will be rewarded. And suddenly it's clear that maybe she won't be rewarded.
I thought that was interesting too, this idea that there's someone, this character who has submitted to who's fully embodying this way of life. But her fury and her confusion and her grief when it doesn't work out the way they're supposed to. You watch someone who has kind of assumed this mantle of power, but it's starts to feel powerless within it. So someone who believes the system is going to work for her, and then fails. I thought it was beautiful, and I thought it was a wonderfully sympathetic portrayal of what it means to be trapped in a system that you thought would work for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also think it's interesting that the two of you will bring up that you are not only artistic partners, but your partners in life. And so how do you navigate? Also, when you're working, is there a division of labor? Do you decide everything together? How does that work?
Making a film is like having a child, and you have to co-parent every significant decision. And sometimes it's about the sign-off. Sometimes it's a gut check. Sometimes there's a battle over things.
Yeah, I mean, but I think it works because we agree so much.
Yeah.
And we have the same film in our minds. The reason that we came to cinema is is because of the same love of film,
and then the same things in life move us.
Yeah.
'Cause I think that's really what great film is about. It's about communicating something of the human experience to another person. And
I think people always latch on to the absurdity because it is different. And the absurdity is definitely part and parcel of our, taste and style. But what matters to us the most is the emotion. And that's always what we're driving towards. And, I feel really lucky that we're partners in life and work. And, the arguments always come from in the minutia, in the smallest details that most people will never notice. I mean, like, for instance, the last scene of the film, we must have recut that so many times. And it's funny because it was storyboarded. So it's very, very, very close to what we had imagined, like, before shooting. But even so, like, just like the exact moments that we're cutting.
Do we see the back of Malais's head? When does she open the door? Just because for us, the whole film was moving to this one moment, and it was so important for us.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious, who came up with, what I found so funny and so inventive and so weird? It's the names of the characters. Angine, Pétulante, Malaise, et Chagrin. So funny. It's so poetic. It's so strange. It's so, like something that, like in music, something really hard to listen. The way it starts with these names, it right away gives you the tune of the film. I mean, it says so much. It's wonderful because the way it rings.
Isabelle is right in that it's a way to immediately communicate that this is a fable. This is an absurdism. This is not science fiction. This is not a world that could become. And then also we imagined a world where people had terrible names, but that sound like they could be names. Because we always chose names that had a proximity to an actual name. And it would be very boring in this world.
Who said that? Because it's like what you could call, to make a long story short, a dystopic. How do you say that in English?
Dystopian, yeah.
Thank you. Story, but then it's not science fiction, and all of it. So it really makes you constantly shifting from something very, very obviously, let's say, contemporary, and also something very ancient. Like a fable, like. It could be like a fairy tale or a conte.
Yes.
It's very, very interesting, I think.
Or they could be characters in a Molière play.
Yeah.
Because, characters in Molière play or in Comédie dell'arte have names that
are... Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah.
So speaking of Molière, what about the decision to make the movie in French? Because obviously you're French speakers and you're English speakers. And so it seemed to be a very, it's decisive. It's in French. Can you talk about that and why it was you went to be in that language?
It came out of the circumstance of having this opportunity to shoot in this store in Paris, and so it felt only right for the film to be in French. But then obviously there were also many many sort of like filmic references that we were drawing on, whether it was Portrait of a Lady on Fire that Luana is in, which is a more contemporary reference, or Les Olympiades de Jacques Audiard, or, obviously the French New Wave is sort of like ingrained in us. And then the films of Buñuel and Tati, they're
especially
sort of...
Buñuel, who worked in Spanish and in French, and I think we also wanted to make a film in France with the perspective of people who are not in the French system completely. So Natalie's Romanian American, I'm French and Indian. Our producers are, even though they're in Paris, are Italian and Argentinian. Our lead actresses are from Kosovo and Iran. We really wanted to celebrate the cinema as an international family. And because we are all outsiders, like even if we are encrusted in a society, I mean, you have both played characters as just like this that appear to be at the heart of, but they are still outsiders. We're all outsiders in some way, and we're very excited by that possibility of making a French film, but as if we were aliens visiting France.
And how many days did you shoot?
I wanted to know that too.
Yeah, we shot, it was quite a few because we were shooting in the middle of the night. So we had very short nights, and we would, sort of rush in every night with all of our materials and the camera equipment. And then, we'd have camera up at midnight, and then at 3 a.m. we would break for lunch. And then at 5 a.m. there would be a cigarette break for the French.
Yes.
And then at 6 a.m. it would be, we would have to put everything away again so that the store could reopen. Because the store hours are really generous in terms of being open all day. And then we shot a couple of days. So it was 7 nights in the store. Yeah. And then we shot. Yeah. I mean, the film is 36 minutes. So it would have been really, and the original cut of the film was 52 minutes. So we were really like neither a feature nor a short. And then we shot a day in Angine's apartment, and a day in Melez's, and a day in the ravine. So in total, it was 10, 11.
And often in the store, the Angine's apartment is actually a secret VIP apartment in top of the Boulevard Haussmann, Galerie Lafayette, where they have receptions and things. And we were shooting there, the scenes, and like the characters and the actors, we were in Angine's apartment, and then suddenly at 7 p.m., this enormous tannoy goes off and says, "Shoppers, it is your last moment to leave the store. The store will close in 15 minutes," during a take. Because we had forgotten that we were in the store. It had become Angine's apartment. Yeah,
but it was actually really wonderful to shoot in France. This is only our second film, and our first film we made in the UK and London. We're based in New York, so we kind of bounce around where the project takes us. And being Europeans and having US nationality as well allows us to work in many different places, which is yeah. But I'm so curious to know, what it is, about the film that sort of first drew you in, whether it was the characters or the absurdity or,
Well, I think it was a little bit of everything. The setting of the story, of course. Yep. What drove me very much first was the champagne at the beginning, at the entrance of the shop. I mean, of course, the what they go through before entering the store, with
yes, exactly. I love that too. The breath, smelling bread. Yes, yeah, and then
the whole the way you get into the story is so original. It just raised so many questions, because you wonder where you are, and also I like the lighting very much. I thought it was a beautiful black and white. It's so difficult to achieve, I think, most of the time. It's either too decorative or too rough, and it's the perfect. It's really aesthetic, but it doesn't go too far. It's very real, and the way the light, the eyes are being lit up, and the faces, and it's really wonderful. It's beautiful, but it's not too beautiful. It's really perfect for the tone of the film, and so I think that as a viewer, you are constantly taken by because you are very close to the characters. You relate really emotionally and to the characters. They are not like puppets,
Right.
even if this totally recreated world and very, very, not real, but you feel, and it's the combination, I think, of
Yes.
the people, the reality of people, and the extreme sophistication of filming, because there is, in the best sense, it really uses all the devices of filmmaking. It pushes it to an extreme, but all constantly being close to the characters. So that's how I have to say it was 36 minutes, but I could have easily watched the 52 minutes as it is, really, because
Absolutely.
the pace is wonderful, the way it's being cut. You never feel
No. It's incredibly visually arresting. I agree with Isabelle. And immediately on watching it, you're drawn in by the skill, by the way the world looks, by the way you move the camera. Everything is so completely considered. And so, when you turn things on, you're sort of like, oh, okay, and immediately your attention is drawn. And of course, as someone who loves cinema and loves visual language, I'm very interested. But the minute it's not filled, if it's simply I'm distanced, but you filled it so completely with these characters. So the characters are they're so alive. They're so completely resolved in the world that they live in. There's no separation. That's what's interesting, is that you create this language of the film, and these women exist so completely within it. And you start to identify with them. You identify with each of them. That's what's marvelous too, is that one is not more important than another. You see all three points of view, and you're really, and as Isabelle said too, I'd be happy watching this as a feature film. I felt like there was so much story there. I don't know how you managed to tell it so compactly. That was also very impressive to me.
And the way they kiss, I like the way they kiss.
Yeah.
Because you don't hear too much to kiss. I can't stand when you hear too much.
That's right.
Don't you think, Julianne?
Yes, I absolutely agree.
It's funny because the kiss was very stressful for us, because it was the last thing that we shot in the store. And it was, we were finally getting comfortable in the shoot, because we were like, it's almost done and we've captured everything and it's going brilliantly and the film is in the can. And then the police showed up. And we were, at the Galerie Lafayette, and we had 1 hour left of our shoot, and we hadn't shot the kiss. It was the last thing on the schedule.
And just to give some context, Isabelle will have a sense of this. It was the morning of the 11th of November on the Champs-Élysées. Does anything happen on the 11th of November on the Champs-Élysées for nearly a century now? Because our production team forgot.
Everyone forgot because, we all lost our sense of time. Yeah. And the police show up and they go, it's Armistice Day. There will be a parade going
with
down.
Tanks and soldiers and airplanes and fighter jets.
Evacuate immediately and remove all of these vehicles with all of our equipment, or they will be, towed and confiscated. And so we had suddenly 5 minutes to shoot what we had allotted for an hour, which was the kiss. And the most intimate and important part of the film, in a certain sense, because it's all leading up to that. And thank God we have such an amazing cast and an amazing DP, and at the end of the day, it actually wasn't even about the kiss. It's about the moments.
That's something that
in between.
That Zara and Luana did on set, and that our editor Hannah Park discovered, because it said it wasn't a scene about them kissing. It was about everything in between them kissing, every caress, every moment of tenderness, and it actually made the scene so much more tender and powerful when we cut out the kiss and they only kiss right at the very end.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good example of playing and collaboration, and you set up some circumstances and then you play within those circumstances, and all the different collaborators will find something so much more powerful than you could have imagined just alone.
It's a beautiful film. It's a really wonderful accomplishment. It really is absolutely arresting, original. I loved it. I just love watching.
I agree. It's very special, and you remember each frame is really stuck in your mind, in your memory. You can't forget it because it doesn't resemble anything you you see. Actually, it's very special. You can be aware of that. Very, very special.
Well, thank you both so much for taking the time to chat with us.
We're so honored.
We're so honored to have you on our team.
Yeah.
And we're such great fans of both of yours. And we hope to work with you guys many times in the future.
Yes.
And thank you again.
Yeah.